We tend to think of faith and reason as being on completely opposite teams, right? But what if that whole idea is wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating argument that says the blind leap of faith isn't actually blind at all. And get this, it suggests that reason itself might be standing on ground that's a lot shakier than we like to admit.
So let's kick things off with a pretty mind-bending question. In sacred texts like the Quran, when they talk about understanding and knowing things, why do they so often point to the heart, the Qalb, as the place where comprehension happens, instead of, the brain? For a lot of people, that right there is Exhibit A. It just seems to confirm the suspicion that faith is purely emotional, a feeling that means you have to leave your logic at the door. It's like you're told you have to pick a side. You can have reason or you can have faith, but you definitely can't have both.
Okay, but let's just flip that whole idea on its head for a second. What if the problem isn't with faith, but with the built-in limits of logic itself? I mean, what happens when pure reason walks you right up to the edge of a cliff and just stops? It can't take you any further. What do you do then?
Well, the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard had this famous line, "Where reason is exhausted, faith begins." Now, a lot of people hear that and think it means giving up on logic. But the argument we're looking at today is totally different. It's about a seeker who has pushed reason to its absolute breaking point. They've gone down every logical path, and they still find themselves asking, okay, what's next? So faith isn't the opposite of reason. It's what might lie just beyond its final frontier.
And here is the absolute crucial point. This leap isn't just a blind stumble into the darkness. No, it's a move that's guided by another incredibly powerful faculty of our intellect, and that's intuition. So this isn't about rejecting our minds. It's about realizing our minds have more than one tool in the toolbox.
There's this great story about the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. A reporter once asked him if he believed in God, and his answer? Wow, it's pretty fascinating. He didn't just say yes or no. He drew a line between believing something, which is kind of a mental exercise, and a much deeper form of knowing. He was pointing to a kind of certainty that doesn't come from a logical proof, but from intuition.
So what is this intuitive knowledge, really? Well, it's not just a passing gut feeling. As it's described here, it has three key features. First, it's lasting. It sticks with you. Second, it complements reason. It doesn't fight with it. And third, it's transformative. It's a kind of knowledge that actually calls on you to change your life. And when you put them side by side like this, the difference is just crystal clear. Think about it, right? A really powerful emotion can make us completely suspend our reason. We've all been there. But a deep intuition works with our reason. And while emotions can come and go in a flash, this kind of intuition is this lasting cognitive pull toward a truth that can genuinely, fundamentally change who we are.
Okay, so if we can agree for a moment that intuition is its own thing, a distinct cognitive faculty, and not just a strong emotion, then we land on the big question. What is its relationship with our rational mind? Is it a rival, or is it something way more fundamental? To even begin to answer that, we have to ask a really strange question about logic itself. How can you use your own logic to prove that your logic is reliable? I mean, seriously, try it. How can you be 100% certain that your own thinking isn't flawed right from the get-go?
And here's the problem you just can't escape. Your goal is to prove your thinking works, but the only tool you have to build that proof is your own thinking. You are literally using the machine you're trying to test to grade the test. It is a perfect logical circle, and there's just no way to break out of it using reason by itself.
And this leads to a pretty stunning conclusion. For reason to even get off the ground, you first have to accept something you can't prove, that your mind is a reliable guide to reality. You can't prove it logically, you just accept it. That fundamental trust in reason is itself a basic intuition. It's a leap of faith.
So this framework kind of breaks it down into two types of intuitive knowledge. First, you've got basic intuition. Things like, I know that I exist. You can't logically prove that to yourself, but you know it with absolute certainty. And then there's spiritual intuition, like Carl Jung's claim to know that God exists. And this brings up a really challenging question. We all accept that first kind of knowing, that I exist, as just obvious. But we often dismiss that second kind as just a belief. But is the way we know these things actually that different? Are we applying a kind of double standard here? Are we using two different parts of our mind? Or is it the same one?
The central argument here is that they are not different kinds of knowledge at all. They both spring from the very same faculty of intuition. The only real difference is one of scale, perceiving your own self versus perceiving the divine. It's the exact same tool, just used for different-sized tasks.
And this just reframes the entire debate, doesn't it? The whole idea of a blind leap of faith gets completely turned on its head. From this point of view, true blindness isn't faith. True blindness is denying that intuition is a fundamental, necessary part of how we know anything at all.
So the big takeaway here is a totally new picture of our intellect, one that's much more holistic. It's not reason versus faith. It's a partnership. Reason is like a bridge, and it builds that bridge as far as it can possibly go. But the very foundation that bridge stands on is a bedrock of intuition. And when the bridge ends, it's that same intuition that guides our very next step.
And that leaves us with a final question to really think about. What role does intuition play in your own search for truth? I mean, think about the most important things you know to be true in your own life, maybe in science or art or in your relationships. How many of them started not with a logical proof, but with a deep, guiding gut feeling? How much of what you know deep down did you actually know long before you could ever prove it?